We tried to see how it became very successful, and of course, again, these are just my opinions, and most likely I am wrong with many of them, and I don't know how the application works, unlike the homopsy, but I have a pretty good idea, so I can try to explain. All right. First of all, what is the game? If you look at it without thinking maybe about the graphics or without thinking about the franchise, because this Pokemon franchise is very, very big, even in Europe and USA, and not just in Japan. It is essentially some kind of a navigation app. What you have to find is you have to find some targets. In this case, you have these virtual creatures there that are at some location on this map. The map is of the real world, but there is nothing there when you go to the location of those creatures. So it is just a virtual location, and you will be able to interact with this location once you are at that position. Now, the game uses a lot of this, a lot of these visual components that attract the person's attention. First of all, it uses this kind of avatar. Means that your character can be personalized. You can make him look like you want. We can talk about that a bit later. The map is quite simple. It doesn't have information like services or speed limitations or anything like that. It just has a basic layout showing what is a street and what is a building, and it doesn't affect your movement at all. So you might walk over a building, through a building. It's not going to interfere with your with the position of your avatar, which is given just by your location in the world. So the map is only there for show and for orientation, so that you know in which direction you are going. So now if you're on the street and you see that there is this Pokemon there, then you can orient yourself based on that, and you know that you have to go this direction or that direction, and you look at the road and you know which way to go. But otherwise than that, map in theory would not be needed. You could figure out the direction of this by trial and error. So yeah, map is very simple. It's not used to find directions or anything like that. It's just for the user to orient himself easier with respect to the real world. All right, but let's check each of these one by one. The map I mentioned, it's very simple, but it's not really that simple. In recent versions, they have made the map styled in such a way that if it is sunny outside, it looks in a certain way. If it is dark outside, it looks in some other way. And even if it's snowing outside, then you can see here there are snowflakes that are coming from the top. So you might remember from our course about our lecture about Google Maps that Google Maps does allow this kind of map styling. You can change colors of different components, so you can make the streets, for example, a different color. This seems to be possible also here. I am not sure what map component this is, but Junaid, who is not here right now, but he is making this homopsy, the Unity version of homopsy. He is using Mapbox component in Unity. And I have to say that it looks very much like this. So I don't know if it is the same one or not, and I'm not even sure if this Pokemon Go is built in Unity, but I believe it is. I didn't have much time to study this. But anyway, so some map component, and apparently it is able to style it in different way according to some criteria. in this case, the criteria is time of the day and the weather that is outside. And it wasn't a feature that existed in the beginning. So, in other words, it's not the reason why Pokemon Go became very popular. So what I want today is to analyze why it became popular. This feature was added later. Already people were talking about it and playing it. It's not critical for your, it doesn't seem to be critical for it, but it is very nice. I think it gives a different perspective, and also it will affect what kind of Pokemon you are collecting. So they are using this weather information, the same one that you are using in your apps, to say that, okay, it looks like it is the daytime, you will get daytime Pokemon. In the night time you will get night Pokemon, like some owl or whatever creature is there. So depending on the time of the day, you will get different things in your collection. We will talk about that later on. But what they do with this is that they have users want to go out in different circumstances. Users will like to play in the evening because they get some different things than in the morning. They will like to play in the rain, which is kind of strange, because maybe then some rain type or whatever, I don't know that much details, but I did notice that in the snow time, some kind of ice crystal beasts were appearing there. So basically, it does affect depending on the weather, and it has this power that it makes people go outside because they want to experience the bad weather in order to collect something that they cannot under normal circumstances. So basically, this feature is making the people go out even in different time than usual, and it does affect a little bit about how the players will use the app. So definitely, I think a nice feature, but it was not really the big reason why it became a hit in the first place. So keep it in mind. It can be nice. For example, we have some games here. We have at least this warmer and colder app. Mika, I think is building it. It's not here right now. But and we have Bilal's snake game. This you go outside, you collect dots and whatever. The dots may look different depending on where you are, or depending on this kind of weather. They could be like ice, a snowflake, or so if you make it have a different style and different properties, then it's very likely that some of the users would like to try that variant of the game as well. Alright, then this custom avatar, I mentioned that it is basically a user marker, more or less. It's nothing else in the app. You have your map here, and it's just this user marker. It's going to be a thing that shows your location. But what they do here is that you are allowed to customize it very much. So you can choose first male or female, and then you can choose different properties like skin color, hairstyle, and clothes, and so on. What is interesting about this is that it is not useful at all after that. So the only purpose for dressing it up is to have it dressed up. It's not really helping much until you get to the aspect of the game that it is a massively multiplayer online game. So then what this customization is helpful for is distinguishing players without necessarily looking at their name. So you might recognize some other character based on how he looks like, and not necessarily focus on what the name looks like what is the character's name, but based on these visual properties. So this is it's this kind of eye-catching feature, but it's not going to impact very much anything else in the game. So no matter how this character will look like, you will have the same opportunities in the game and the same kind of interactions and so on. It's more like combining this dress-up game into Pokemon Go. So you could consider that they have done some research. They have seen that some people like playing this kind of custom characters game. They want to make the characters maybe look like themselves or to look like something that they like. And they said, we add this into our feature, into our game, because people like doing it. So why not? Right. Then after that, we speak about this collection. So the purpose of the game is to go outside in the real world and to find these virtual creatures which are around you in different locations. And there are many of them. I don't remember how many they are, but over 100, maybe 250 or something like that. So many things that you can find, many creatures that you can find, and they resemble animals, but yeah, you should know, you should be familiar with this Pokemon thing because it has been already for many years on TV, and at least many people know what it is, a little bit about it. So here you have some kind of rat-like creature and another one. So they are grouped together based on the type of animals. And then we have some birds here, some worm here, and I don't know what this is, but it's a very popular frog kind of character. Yeah, so what is the purpose of this collection, in my opinion, is that if you have a collection, and if you have a collection that is incomplete, it motivates the user to fill it up. In terms, in a sense that if you have a feeling that something is not done, you have this urge to complete it. So by having such a large, extensive collection, it means that your user is going to be preoccupied for a very long time. So it means that even if he gets bored of the application today, after 1 week he will think about, hey, I wonder if I can find some other things because I'm going on this trip to Helsinki, and Helsinki has a harbor. Maybe there are some sea-type Pokemon there. So maybe I open the app again and try it there. Even though I don't like it very much, the thought about having the collection filling up is enough to get people more motivated on that. And also, what is there? I don't know. I want to know. So the fact that they are hidden until you find one of them and you are not sure what you're going to expect is going to have an impact on the user's desire to use the app. Sometimes they give a hint if something is really impressive, or maybe if it's some character that, I don't know, has appeared on the show, or that it has a very high chance of it being interested to many people, then they do give such a hint, and then they advertise it somehow. But usually it's a mystery what you're going to find. Yes?
You are seeing that Pokemon in somewhere.
Which one? Oh, this one?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so I have seen it. Okay. So I have seen it, but I have not been able to catch it. Okay, good. I don't know all the details. But I do know that if I catch it, I get information about it. So it's not just an item that goes into the collection, it's also an item that has different properties. So maybe I would be interested to see what kind of properties this has. Like I can see here its weight, I can see the type of Pokemon that it is. I can even evolve it, power it up and whatever. So they are different things that I can also do with these characters. One of them maybe I will get into later. But yeah, so very important to note here is that, again, is that this game is built on the Pokemon franchise. And they really didn't have to invent anything else because all of these creatures was already existing. So I would say that the toughest part of this game was already done, coming up with unique designs for the individual creatures that are somehow catchy and interesting. That was already there, and they reused it and already had a very big fan base to start with. So it wasn't this new app that just became overnight. It was an app related to a franchise. So this is something that worked very much in their favor. And you can do that too if you get some very good ideas, but you need to contact the owner of the franchise and get permission to do that. So don't just take all the characters, put them in your app and say Pokemon Go version 2, Finland edition. It's not that easy. But yeah, so the guys that made the game, and now I have to say that I read this long ago and I'm not 100% sure, but they were not the creators of Pokemon. They were some other company, this Niantic, I think, and they just had a partnership, an agreement with them, and they said this will become a very good game because we have now the technology necessary and it's in everybody's pockets and it is the time. So this idea has been there since long ago, but they had to wait for the time that it will become popular. Okay, extreme example, think that now we go back into Stone Age and you have a smartphone. What do you do with a smartphone? There are no roads, there are no GPS satellites, nothing will work with your location sense. And same here, if you implement this game 20 years ago, then the battery runs out like this, and there was not even GPS, I think, or in the beginning of when they released it at that point. So they had the right moment to begin this and to implement this. But the idea is not very unique. It just relied on many things that already existed, and a bunch of Pokemon games already existed beforehand, but not linked with the location of the people. So this was really the novel aspect there. And now about these objects. So you find the Pokemon on the map somewhere, and it's not enough just to reach the location of the target. If you remember in Omopsy, it is enough to reach the location of the target or be near it, about 20 meters distance. Here it is the same idea, but after that you need to interact with it. And the way that they are doing this interaction is in a way very novel and in a way very unnovel, very old. But we will see that. So first of all, the default view is this. You will see the creature somewhere on your phone screen, and it's going to move around a little bit. So it can move on some path there. And your purpose is to throw this ball by dragging your finger over it, to throw it, and after that some kind of small physics engine takes the ball, moves it around according to your initial speed, and it will go somewhere. And if it hits this Pokemon, with the probability you will catch it. And then it will become part of your collection. So your collection just got one more entry there in the list. Now, on top of that, what really was very catchy in the app is that they use this augmented reality view. So this AR view here, meaning that they turned on the phone's camera. So after they turned on the phone's camera, they used the phone's accelerometer and this gyroscope to record the location of the phone where it first looked at. And they consider that the zero location where this Pokemon is going to be. And then depending on the angle of the mobile phone, they will move this Pokemon on the screen so that it maintains more or less the same location as at the beginning. So it gives the impression that it is really in the real world, at least if you look through the screen of the mobile phone. And this is something that reminded me of yesterday's discussion with Jarmo, because having something like this also in homopsy is not better than having a real target, in my opinion, but it's in between having a target that is not existing and a target that is existing. So at least it gives the impression here that this mudkip sits on this branch here. It kind of gives that impression, and it's a little bit funny to see it in the real world. And if I go now outside and I move the mobile phone, it's still going to stay more or less along that branch. Now, this is not really that sophisticated. It's just a coincidence that this branch is there. It's most likely just floating there around the area. But when Pokemon came out, I was in USA. I was going on a road trip, and I was surprised. I was going everywhere, and people were speaking about Pokemon Go. And many of the conversations, I remember one, I was at the hotel reception, and the guys that were discussing something, the people working there were discussing something, and one of them was like, yeah, did you check this app? There's a Pokemon on Rahul's office desk. So really excited about seeing these creatures on top of the real world, even though they are just some pictures, or in, I believe, 3D models that are just pasted on top of a webcam. It's much more interesting when it's pasted over the webcam and this zeroing of the location is done, than if you compare with this version where you just have some plain background there. So it had a huge impact, and I did hear less than 10, but more than one of these remarks while just going around the country and listening to people speaking. And, yes.
Excuse me. Augmented object. How do we start the system if we have put the augmented reality button on, and then we moving around and we came nearby the object, and what then? Should we push the button that we can get the Pokemon there, or how do we start there?
Yeah, okay. So I didn't explain very much in detail, but I should maybe. So let's say this is a top view from the top, and you are here with your phone. So this is the direction that your camera is moving on. And you want to put a Pokemon somewhere here in this location. When you start this, when you press on one Pokemon and the camera starts, then you have to record from your location and your orientation, so from your angle and from your location, a certain distance. It can be maybe 2 meters away from you and in front of you. That's where the Pokemon is going to initialize his location. So it is always going to be on the screen when you first open the app. And then this location here is just an estimate from your current location. So let's say that this is XY. So just an estimate like that. Now, if you are going to move a little bit here with your phone, then what happens is that your x changes, right? So you are going to have x minus, let's say, 2 and the same y value. And in this kind of situation, the phone registers the change in movement either by GPS, but it's not using GPS, it's using the accelerometer. So the accelerometer gives much more fine changes in movement than the GPS does. The accelerometer can figure out even this type of movement that I'm doing with my phone right now, while GPS would just consider it some kind of a noise or would not be so precise. And then after it is like that, it is not going to display now the Pokemon in this location anymore. It's going to figure out what is the angle to the original location here, where it was first displayed, and it's going to put it on the screen with that angle in my from my direction. So it's this kind of small trigonometry computation there, not too much. I think that if you remember our first lecture, some of the things there can be used also here. And basically it means that you have the graphic, but you will display it somewhere here. So it gives the impression that you are leaving the Pokemon on that side when you are moving to the other direction. Yes?
Yes, that was not the question, but
ask again.
It was good explanation.
Okay, can you ask again?
The question was that if we are in the game and we start the scenario with this picture of the right one, that there is no yeah, and then we click it, and then we can get the camera view, and yeah, that was the question, that it's initializes the basic situation.
Okay, yeah, so this is default. This only happens if you allow it to happen.
Okay, good. Thank you. But good presentation of the technology.
Yeah, it's a very bad example, or maybe a good example when I don't understand the question, but I say something that you like.
Sure.
Okay, so then you do get something in the collection. Now, this is not a new concept, this throwing the ball to catch something. This has been a very old game, this paper toss. It has been 10 years old almost. The game, it is the same concept, you just throw a paper ball into a basket. That's what they did. So they, again, like in that custom avatar, they saw this idea that, hey, this paper toss game had over 50 million downloads. Wow. And it's just a game where you have a basket and the ball, and the goal is to throw it into the basket. People liked playing this in different times. You're on a train, you're somewhere, you don't have what to do, you don't want a puzzle game, you're tired, you just want to throw a ball. And it seems like it was a hit, and it became successful on many operating systems, and then had different variants. It had variants, it had some kind of effects like maybe they introduce wind direction, so then when you throw the ball you need to compensate for this wind that is coming there. They don't do that in Pokemon, but what they do is that in this Paper Toss 2.0, at some point there was a person who comes, picks up this thing and moves it a little bit. And that's what the Pokemon does. It sometimes moves around and you have to move and then try to get it back into your camera. And when you throw, it might move out of the way of the ball. So in a sense, everything that has to do with the game mechanics of catching the item has been inspired from this. And you will find this happening in many games, many popular games. So they do like to take ideas that were successful in the past and just say, this fits here. Why? Because, well, it's not a paper ball, but it's a ball. You have to toss it somehow. Immediately it should make your mind go to some game that you maybe have tried in the past. And the mechanics just fit. They are simple enough, don't take too much time, but they are still not too easy. Right. Game has more features, many other features, or a bunch of other features. But interesting to say is that it can be categorized as this freemium app. I don't know if you are familiar with the concept, but freemium means that it's a free app. You can play it as much as you want for free without paying anything. But you have the opportunity to buy things inside the app. And these things that you can buy usually help you gain some kind of points or evolve your Pokemon, or some of the features that are not, I don't present them right now. I don't think that they were the main reason for making the app very popular, but it does offer a lot of interactivity, and also because some of them some of them you can earn, but if you have money, you can also buy. So the idea is that more lazy people might want to still be in the top scores, to have a good collection and to have a good view when checked by their friends. So they might consider paying actual money to get this better. And it is one of the models, business models, that you can use to earn some real money. So you give something for free, but what you are giving is actually opportunity for getting money. So it doesn't mean that everybody is going to pay, but it means that they can if they want. And in this case, they do. I don't have numbers, but there was some news about how much money has been spent on Pokemon Go, and it was averaged something like a couple of dollars maybe per person, I'm not sure, and they have millions of users, so a lot of money has been just moving around because of this app. I don't remember, I might be wrong, but anyway, these in-app purchases were used, so it's not just a feature that is there. And battles, so it's possible to go in these gyms and have battles, and you can choose some of the Pokemons, and then you select them to do this battle, and they change their ratings or whatever. I'm not that deep into knowing these things very well, and evolving them, they become stronger, and they can win more of these battles. So yeah, and hatching is also something. You might find some eggs that can be hatched in some way. I think usually to hatch them you need to walk a certain distance. I don't know all of the things, but it has many things, many features, many things that people can do, that players can do, and this is a good thing, because it means that if you are bored of one thing, you can try another thing. So it's kind of like gives you opportunities to try something else within the app, which is still inside the same group of things that you can do. So everything is revolving around this Pokemon. Now, just to summarize, and this is the last slide, so now we can talk about different things. Why I think it was a big hit is that it's easy to play. It's very easy to play. You just move around. If something is nearby, your phone vibrates. It even tells you if it's in your pocket. Take it out. Okay, something is here. Click on it, and then you try to catch it with this very easy game that you just swipe your finger over it. So very easy to play. It has a very popular franchise in the background. Most people know what it is even before the game became. So it already had a fan base before it existed. This is a very good strategy, and you will have players. You are guaranteed to have players when you are starting with a popular franchise. But most importantly, I would say, because there have been multitude of Pokemon games in the past, some more more popular than others, but this one, many people heard about it. And I claim that one of the reasons why this game became very popular is because it had many problems. And these problems hit the media. And that meant free advertisement. So just to give some kind of examples, people were complaining, and they were complaining a lot, like, my kids are going in unsafe neighborhoods because of Pokemon Go. Media. Or my kids want to go far away from the house because near their house there are no Pokemon. Again, it's the media. And then it's enough for one child to have some accident and then broke his leg because of Pokemon Go. So it seems like a problem, like a blame, but actually what happens is that more and more people are learning about it. They might learn a bad thing about it, but to some that don't know about it, they might think, what is this? Oh, okay, I remember that. I install it on my phone, and then they don't consider it as a bad thing. They just consider it as a opportunity to learn about it, and it will not happen to me. I'm not a small kid that is going somewhere else, so they don't sympathize with the person in the bad news. And then a lot of other things like muggings, like because some thief knows that there is Pokemon in some corner, dark corner, then he hides there, he waits for the person to come and then steals his phone. He knows that the person has a phone, that's how he got there. So it's like a lot of these stories appeared on the news without Niantic or anybody advertising it in any way. So it's spread out to everybody. When I was in US, my parents were calling me, what is this Pokemon Go? Explain me, I don't understand. And I was thinking, how do they hear about it? And really, it seems like bad publicity, but I think that it drove them very, very high, very quickly up. And then, of course, not all of them were necessarily bad, but a lot of bad stories came out. Some bad, some good. I remember some people stumbled upon a dead body somewhere and they were claiming, well, there was a Pokemon there, we came to check, and horrible. But then also some funny things like this hatching of the eggs. Some lazy people didn't want to go outside and walk some distance, so they put the phone on the drone, and then they were sitting down and the drone would just fly around and hatching different things. So these kind of inventive solutions also made the media, and it's really, I believe it to be as important as the franchise and the usability to get the word across. So yeah, a bit of a funny thing, but making a dangerous app can also be a good thing. So I don't have anything else to talk about, and they were mostly my opinions, of course, but I think that it is good to check out different applications. So we checked out this one and the Strava and Waze, and I think there are many things to learn from them if you analyze a little bit, and you might use them in your future projects. They don't need to be games or anything related, but I'm pretty sure that some of these reasons are what make them very popular, and we can talk about it more. So just ask.
How are these targets figured?
Yeah, so how are they placed on the map, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it
How
may...
they are decided that there is the place to the top.
Yeah, okay, so this is very interesting. I actually know the answer to this one, kind of. Crowdsourcing. Before Pokemon Go existed, there was another game made by the same company, Niantic. the game still exists. It's called Ingress. Maybe it has 2 S's, I don't know. It's called Ingress, and I haven't played it, but it has something to do with conquering different places. So you have some kind of spaces in the world, and you conquer it by maybe going there or going around it or whatever. And these places were recorded by people. Some of them were recorded by people. They could be real objects in the world, same as what Omopsi is doing. But it's not necessarily. It can be also a meeting place, like the middle of a park with a meeting area there. Or so it doesn't necessarily need to be a place, a thing there, an object there. But what it happens is that in those places that people were conquering before, they already have learned that they are locations where people are gathering. So they have made a database of locations where people have came to conquer the places in the past. So basically, when they started Pokemon Go, they took all of the collections that they got from Ingress and they used it to avoid the cold start problem. So the cold start means where to put something when you don't have information. They did have information from another game. And that way, you don't get Pokemon over the highway because nobody was meeting on a highway or on a railroad track or whatever. So they avoided many of the problematic places. And they did get a lot of Pokemon where there are many people. On the contrary, they got a lot of bad media because they didn't have enough Pokemon or maybe even no Pokemon where there were no people. So if you think about Finland and rural areas, nothing is there. So kids would install the app and uninstall the app because they don't find anything. So it's a downside of this system. Was this your question now?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
What about that? There was a rumor that you can just pay that you can get some kind of Pokemon place if you are a businessman or marketing. Are these true or no?
I don't know, maybe. At least if you have a restaurant and if you get a lot of Pokemon in that restaurant, then maybe people will stay at your table just to play. So I don't know, but I would be open to such suggestion if I would make the company and the game. Does anybody know?
I heard about it as well, but I don't know if it was just like a legend or if it's true.
Yeah, I think you have the possibility. Why not? So if you have a database of places where people tend to gather, okay, then you will put more Pokemon where you have more people, right? Because you are expecting that many people are there, so you want to have some equal or more probability. But if you have a place where not so many people gather, like a restaurant or something that is not very big, then having more Pokemon there could be a subtle way of getting more customers. And why would Niantic refuse to put more probability to get Pokemon in some location if they are even paid for it? So, I mean, the way that they decide the locations is not perfect anyway. It's just some idea of where to put the things. So having it a bit off balance is not going to be a big problem, I think.
I heard there was a complaint like somewhere apparently there was a gym that appeared near a neighborhood, and suddenly like all these people were coming there, and then all neighbors or residents were complaining like, why is everyone coming here or something like that.
Okay, so Bilal is saying that there was a gym. So gym means I think it's this place where people gather, they group together, and do they also battle? Or I think they battle, yeah. I think it's this. Is it this thing?
Maybe.
I'm not sure. Yeah, so they are virtual locations, not just like the Pokemon. They are virtual locations where you can go and meet with other players and interact somehow, maybe trade or I don't know very well this but they are the places where many people are able to interact in some way. And Bilal was mentioning that one of these places was opening in some quiet neighborhood, and that there it was causing a lot of noise, and people started to complain, and again it reached the media. So yeah, not the similar to Waze. If you remember when we discussed Waze, the navigation app, so that's what happened there too. It would direct you on a less busy road so that you are going to be quicker at your destination. But the less busy road goes through peaceful neighborhood. Small kids live there or whatever, and then people complained about that. None of the apps here are doing everything good. They are causing also some kind of unhappy people, unhappy not users, so they are very good with the users, but they might cause some unhappy third parties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the franchise? I just I apologize about it. Could you tell again?
About what?
Franchising.
The franchise.
Yeah. Very good franchise, or where there was a slide.
Yeah, so have you heard about Pokemon before this game?
I heard about Pokemon before this day.
Before this game appeared. So I think this game appeared maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Have you heard about it before that?
Okay. No, okay.
I mean, I just mean that, okay, now Google Maps has announced that they are going to have Unity SDK for building games with the Google Maps. So it is going to mean that in the future there will be many games that maybe look like this, but instead of having this type of map here, it will become the Google map, and it will have maybe a bit more functionalities because they are powerful. They announced now that they are going to make at least 3 or 4 big games, so they want to compare already with Pokemon Go. One of it is Jurassic World, or I think it's Jurassic World. So I guess it's going to be dinosaurs everywhere. Another one is going to be Walking Dead. So I guess it's going to be zombies everywhere. And I think the last one is going to be something with Harry Potter. So I guess it's going to mean wizards everywhere. So basically, they are all franchises. Well, this Jurassic World is not really a franchise because Jurassic Park was the franchise. And Jurassic World is the recent movie, it just came a few years ago. But people know what Jurassic is. So all of these seem to be based on the same idea, on a franchise that people have heard about before, maybe people that are into horror movies or these fantasy movies or very big wild animals. So it seems that they acknowledge Pokemon Go as a success because it's based on a franchise, so they decided to join into this gaming world to add their features there, and seems to have been partnered already with some of these big franchises already. So yeah.
Okay, did I get that right? That the Pokemon company can license the technology to these games? So or just a franchise size that the IPs are from the Pokemon?
Can you repeat? I didn't understand.
that who made the Pokemon Go, just the franchise, the technology to, or the idea to the these like what are these HP and etc. Or
So-
take the license or license fees or that kind of stuff, or just we talking about that the idea is a franchise.
Yeah, so Google would, if Google is the person who is building these games, I'm not sure if they will have to pay to the franchise to be able to use their similarities there.
Yeah, okay, I get it. Good, thank you.
Yeah, but I don't know the too many details here. I just it is like that, but it could be also some kind of partnership agreement, so that you don't pay necessarily, but then you are partners, and even though the people here don't do anything anymore, they will start to get some money because their property is being used elsewhere. So yeah, but it is something that you as a freelancer or as a developer on your own are not going to do very easily. So to my knowledge, you don't own any of these popular franchises, and becoming partners with them, I assume that they have a lot of offers and a lot of these appearing all the time, so it's not very easy. You need to be already quite good developer yourself and to have a name for yourself, and then maybe they listen to you and are interested in your business idea. But usually what people are usually any app that we are making doesn't have this benefit, so people need to find it out some other way. They can't rely on this somebody else doing the publishing for them. Yeah, but okay. Any more questions, thoughts? Why do you think? Some other reason that I missed. I didn't play the game that much. I'm level 10 now, but I just maybe cumulatively 2 hours of playing. So, but of course I was curious because it's our main competitor at the moment. You must know your competitors, even if at the moment we don't stand such a big chance against them. You should know.
About the businesses using Pokemon Go, you can actually already buy lures.
Bye.
And like 10 euros buys 8 hours. And you can just, for example, you own an ice cream stand, you put a lure in front of it, and you have quite a lot of customers for that. So you can already do that.
Okay, good point. So, what was your name? Juhani. He was saying about this lures. So it is possible to buy. Can you also get lures by finding them somewhere? You're not sure. I think it is possible. So I think it's possible that you also find them in some places. But you can buy lures. These lures are like the fishing lure. When you use it, then Pokemon come to you, right? So
And it's like global, so it affects everyone. So
yeah, and it affects everybody. So it just means that when you are using it, more fish, more Pokemon come to this location. And he was saying that you can buy such lures, and if you own an ice cream stand or some place where you want people to come, then they might come there because there are Pokemon, not because you are selling ice cream. But after they are there, they see the ice cream. So it's like a lure for ice cream people, for people that like ice cream. So yeah, I believe that this is happening. So it's the same as what we discussed before with Matthew, but it seems to be already existing in the game, but not as a partnership with the company. It's a feature in the game that people use for another purpose. But it is also the way that some of the muggings have been done. So a lure that lures people with expensive phones to a dark neighborhood, and then media takes over again. And there have been even videos on YouTube, like people that were doing live streaming while playing the game. So they were just filming themselves playing the game, and all of a sudden this kind of dark guy comes from the alley, and then the phone goes in a pocket and disappears forever. So it's not a joke. I think that the problem is very small in Finland, but the more people you have in a place, the more likely you have people with bad intentions, and this kind of thing can happen, and they like to take advantage of anything they can. This Pokemon Go is giving a lot of such opportunities, unfortunately. So definitely it's not a game that gives only good things, but it does. So coming back to the good things that it does, it took a lot of people outside of the house. So a lot of gamers that were typically sitting down went out. They didn't do as much exercise as one would do in Omopsi, like for example, but definitely it's better than sitting down all the time. And they did move. They go to different places, and now they even go in different times of the day and weather conditions just to play the game. So it does have a positive health benefits, I would say. They are not, I don't know if they are proven, but I have seen some papers. I never read them thoroughly to give you exact results, but there are scientific papers citing Pokemon Go and explaining behavior of people and explaining how the fitness of people change, and so health science and other things, they use it as a basis, as a control group separator. For example, people who play, people who don't play, and then they analyze some kind of effects, how do their life changes or health changes or so on. So it made a huge impact, I would say, this game on everything. So if it's good enough to divide people in these kind of studies, then probably it has some health benefits, even without reading the paper. I believe that. It's also our reason for Omopsi. We wanted to have a game that gets you moving, but now maybe it's making you moving too much or putting pressure on you and playing too much, and then we don't have as many people eager to play it, and we don't have 250 small animals that you have to collect because I can't draw so much. Yeah, and also because if I would do it, it's not as popular as the 250 that already exist and other people know about. So this is really the benefit of the franchise here.
Maybe you could add a feature to Omopsi or whatever it's called. You can take a picture of an animal and upload it, and it like gives you, like in Pokemon, and you get like points. Or if it's like a like or some rare animal, you get a lot of points.
Okay, yeah, good idea. So feature in Omopsi, if you find an animal, you take a picture of the animal and then you get points. So it's like the real Pokemon Go.
Although it would be difficult to like authenticate that he really took this picture here and he really like found this animal.
Yeah, okay.
On the player.
Yeah. But that's not Pokemon Go anymore, that would be Animal Go.
Yeah,
So it's not so cool.
true.
We are playing a little bit with the Mopsy Go idea, but we don't have anything ready yet. But this Go is a good keyword, I think.
And what do you
Yeah.
think about the security of the game? I mean, because when everyone starts in the beginning playing the Pokemon Go, a lot of another applications starts to help you about hacking the game and go to complete your goals very easy. So do you think it's good or bad for them?
So if I understand correctly, your question is there are some pilot applications or some applications that you can install on your phone and you can use them to play Pokemon Go more efficiently. Maybe, for example, fake your location, make it go to different parts while you sit down and sit on the table. And you're asking me if it is a good thing or a bad thing, or if they should address
Yeah,
it.
because I mean, I think in like if I develop in one application and another people develop another application for hack my application. So.
Oh yeah, well, a bit of a funny story. I don't want to get into too much details because we are still thinking about making a product out of this and it's a secret. But the funny thing is, the reason why it's not a product is that, well, one of the reasons is that we have made it and it's cool and we like it and it's getting that, but I also invented a way to hack it.
Yeah.
So if I know a way to hack it and I could invent another app that can hack this application, then probably somebody else can also make an app to hack this application. And if you hack it, everything is kind of lost. Like the point is not to hack it. So same I would say here, but I'm now curious. I'm going to start Pokemon on my phone, and I'm curious to see if using this fake GPS app, if I can play the game, because it's possible to detect if somebody is trying to.
I think actually yes, but.
I think they did put some kind of ways to detect in the game. Like some people were driving and
Yes.
using the game, and then now they have something that can check how fast you're moving, and then if it detects you're in some kind of vehicle, it will stop you from playing.
Yes. So.
But if Niantic think you are using fake application, fake GPS application, then they might give you one.
Ban. Okay. So I'm now going to get a ban after I'm in the level 11. Okay, I can use it. So it seems I can use it actually. So small example here, but this is the game and this is some fake tool. And the character is basically moving now even though I'm standing here. So I can do it, but it's very, even though it says on the top failed to detect location because I'm indoors. But like, is it Teemu? Yes. Was saying it's possible that they will understand that this is a fake signal somehow, and eventually I can be banned from the app, so I'm going to close it before I lose my many years of work effort. I still want to teach this course some other time, so I need my account. So it seems like it is possible, but like you have been saying here, it is possible to detect if somebody is driving, so it can detect that and disable playing while driving because it can be dangerous. You have the option to say that you are a passenger, I think. So then you could play, but in a sense it's unfair. though I can say that a lot of people are playing like that. They are going on this, driving around the town, all possible streets and stopping wherever Pokemon are available. And yeah, this game makes people do silly things. But about the security issues, there are problems because you end up in the situation where you have these in-app purchases, right? So this is where the problems start. Because if you have just the app and somebody is hacking it, so what? But now you have in-app purchases and you have some people who are gaining benefits from the app by hacking it. And then you have some people who are gaining benefits by paying for things. And then the ones that are paying for things are complaining, make your security better. Look, this thief is getting that I pay without paying. So it's like a real complaint due to that. So it's a real issue, and I believe what Teemu said may be true with banning. So if I turn on this fake GPS system on phone or on computer, usually what will happen is that there is no noise. So the location information is very correct. And there is no satellite information. So what is really encoded in the signal is not just your location, but you also know the location of the satellite and the time that it was received from there. So if at the same time they could, of course, the server in Pokemon is a server that, well, they probably have multiple servers, but they can very easily know the location of all the satellites used to GPS. And if you send a fake signal, you have to send such a fake signal that would use, I mean, they could figure out that you are not where this satellite claims to you to be. So it is possible to have high security levels, but I don't know if they are doing this thing. But I think it's a big problem once you have the in-app purchases there. Because then you have this, you are really stealing something that other people pay for. But without that, I don't think it would be any risk. So that's the same story with our situation, is that we do also plan to have some kind of purchases there in that app, and if some people can hack it, then we don't want to have any of it. But yeah, but that's one good thing. You are building your app, you will know exactly what you have in your app. You will be the most likely guy to break your app. So try to hack it yourself, because you should know all the vulnerabilities. Of course, other people are experts in this. There are courses on security, and I think there are even some courses on hacking, but they are linked. So you have to be somehow good hacker to be a good security expert. But if your app is free and not earning anything, then it's less important. I think so. Yeah. Anything more?
How about the map used in Pokemon? So apparently used or still maybe used in somewhere Google Maps, but it's using somewhere else. OpenStreetMap apparently these days.
I don't know.
I was just Googling about it, and apparently there was some polygon or some.
I don't.
There were some examples of it. And OpenStreetMap blog had an actual blog post about it. They had, in fact, seen quite a lot of interest from Pokemon Go players updating the map because of that.
Okay, could be. I don't know. So
I mean, they still apparently don't say where the map is, but
Mhm.
apparently that's a thing.
Okay. I can just say that the way that they, I mean, the map, I don't think it is very important. It is not playing a major role in this game. For example, in this picture here, I'm sitting on top of a building. This is a building. I'm not interacting with the environment in any way. It can be, it's just empty everywhere. The only use of the map is to figure out where I am, where the street or other landmarks are, and have an idea of where I am going, so that I'm not just running blind to some direction. So at the moment, for this game at least, it's not very important, but I think that these might have some kind of more interaction with the map.
You need a huge quantity of data, because you are using data for, you are paying for the internet. So if you take a street views or something, you need a lot of internet.
Okay. Yeah, so if you would use higher level features like Street View or satellite, or this bird's eye view, or something that looks more detailed, it will take more internet balance. Like it will use more, you will download more information, and that's true. It's actually very true. So if you go to Google Maps, then I don't know if you have ever wondered, but okay, so they are these images here that are being loaded now. I think they are actually, yeah, I think they are actually the images here. It's a bit strange that this is appearing. I would expect to have these images, the other tiles. I'm not sure why these are given there. I think the other ones are also here, so not exactly sure. But what I wanted to say is, yeah, it used to look different, this download part there. But what I wanted to say is that these pictures are very small, in the sense that you can have few colors, and they reduce the number of colors very much. They optimize these so that when you're scrolling the map and when you're panning the map, you don't download such a large amount of information. And especially here. So here, that's why they use such a simple color palette. So this can be a PNG image, or I'm not sure what they are here. I guess some kind of image. But when you have this kind of the same color everywhere for this distance, for this large area, it means that you can compress this image very much. So I don't know if you are very familiar with compression, but very simple idea of how to compress could be just that, okay, the basic image, you have to record the value for every pixel. So that is simple. But it's going to be very big. This is 100 pixels wide and 100 pixels high, then it's going to be 10,000 values, and then you can have a value for each of them. Let's say that the map uses 10 different colors, water, land, grass, or whatever, then how many bits you need to record this amount, then you multiply by that, and you get the size of the image. But you can do much more. For example, you can say that, hey, at this line here, everything on this line is green. So I could compress all the values of all the points there. I can just say that line 10 green. So I don't need to record all the points there. the same you could say here, that okay, this line green until position 7, after position 7 you have white until position 10, and then you're green again, and so on. So a way of compressing so that you don't have all the info of the picture there. But the problem is when you start to do to use features like this. Okay, I think I have to go to Helsinki. It probably is not going to work very well in Joensuu, but yeah, when I'm here now, it has this 3D feature and the possibility to zoom in and to really get textures of the map, of the objects, then these are much more difficult to compress. So they will take much more memory to download, and not memory, internet usage to download and use. So that's probably also the reason why they kept it as simple as possible in Pokemon Go. They just wanted quick map loading, and it's not really used so much. You would expect that your avatar couldn't jump from this position to this position. If you somehow go through the building here, then your avatar would stop there and you would need to pick it back or something if the map is integrated into the game more. At the moment the map is there just for show, and it helps a little bit for orienteering purpose, but it's not essential game element at the moment. But the other games, this what Google Maps wants to do, they will be. I don't think Google is the one who is doing this Jurassic World or whatever, some other companies, but they are partnering with Google and with the franchising. So let's see if I can find this news again. Yeah, I think it was this one. So yeah, so they do. They are planning to release this a new a Unity SDK. Google Maps doesn't have a Unity SDK at the moment. So if you go to the Google Maps developers page, it's not there. But they are planning to open it, and after that, some companies are already making some kind of these games. Yeah, okay. Ghostbusters also. So really, anything that is somehow fitting there is going to be done, and that API would be much more seems to be much more customizable. So the map will play a much bigger role than what it does in Pokemon Go. It seems like it offers this possibility to style it differently and to style different buildings and different elements with different textures. So in that situation, it will play a different role than simply to orient the user around. But to my knowledge, this is not out yet. So in the Google Maps, okay. This now we have a different web page. Everything is different. Where was the okay, maybe this JavaScript API. I hope it is in the same place. This is also different. They changed the web page and now I'm confused. Samples are there, but I don't want samples. I want to see the products and the different APIs that they offer, and I don't find it anymore. Yeah. I don't spend time here anymore. Oh, okay. So. Yeah, so, okay, this one at least. So we have Android, iOS. No, it's not that. So this is just showcases of that. But these are the different types. So they have the Android, iOS, the web API, and the web services, which is that thing that you can call even outside of a browser. So get some specific information without the map necessarily. But the Unity is expected to appear also here as a separate one, not as it isn't. That news is just that it's planning to do it and that things are already going in that direction, but I haven't seen any news that it is out yet. So you can look for it, and when it comes out, then you will see a lot of excited people that are working with location and want to make new games. But I think that it looks much more fancy than what it will be like. In the sense that I think that making a game, the gameplay is much more important, and this kind of visual features are not necessarily the winning idea. They will be more intensive on the phones. They will cause more lag, more internet usage. So not always something bigger is also better. But it will attract a lot of attention, and many people will have cool ideas. And yeah, I think we can stop in a couple of minutes, but yeah, I wonder if I still wanted to tell you something. For the exam, yeah. For the exam, you are allowed to take calculator with you. So you don't need it for very complicated things, but you might need square root or something like that in the calculations. So it's easier than doing it by hand, and I need a lot of time to make sure that my square root calculation is correct myself. So I'm not going to force you to do it by hand. So, yeah, and presentations and your project works today, tomorrow. I expect to see the last versions of that. And registration is off from the course exam, but if you haven't registered, you can still send email to the student secretary and register. If you are confident in your project, then you don't need to register. So you can be just graded on that. And some of you already know the grade, because you have sent me recent versions. And if you know the grade, then definitely don't register if you're happy with it. Okay, but anyway, see you at the presentations on Thursday.